everyone, it's Jenna, and today I'll be talking about my nose piercing experience and about the aftercare of a nose piercing, and basically hopefully answering any questions that you may have about a nose piercing. Thought about how I wanted to do the layout of this video, and I figured talking about my own experience was the best way to do it, because aftercare is different depending on, of course, where you're getting your nose pierced. They're going to tell you different things across the board, so I figured talking about my experience was the best way to do it, rather than doing a frequently asked questions video. If I don't answer your question in this video based on my experience, feel free to leave it in the comments and I'll definitely get back to you. So yeah, let's get into the video. So I've had my nose pierced for around 7 months. I got it at the end of October around Halloween weekend, and I recently changed it to this nose ring, nose hoop, this silver nose hoop. I don't know if you can really see it with this lighting, but it is pierced. So I've wanted my piercing for a few years. I knew I wanted a piercing because for the longest time I wanted to get my second earlobe piercing done, but my parents would not let me. So once I turned 18 and moved out to go to college, I decided that it was a good time to get a piercing, and I started thinking about that around October, and I didn't really know what I was going to get. I had thought about getting a nose piercing for a long time because I liked how it looked. I remember seeing Perry Edwards' nose piercing. I loved her nose piercing, and I really liked the nose hoops. I liked those more than anything else, and that's why I got my nose pierced. But I found out that it wasn't a good idea to get a hoop the first time you get your nose pierced because of the swelling or something like that. It's better to get a stud. So most places will not let you put in a nose piercing. Most places won't let you put in a nose hoop when you first come. That's something you'll have to do later on. Did a lot of research with what goes into it, how much it hurts, how much it would cost, the aftercare and stuff like that. The healing period is like 6 months to a year, so it's kind of long. And I also actually watched quite a few YouTube videos on the subject, just hearing things. And also, there are a lot of horror stories on YouTube, so that's kind of a dangerous place to look for nose piercing experiences because they can be really bad and daunting. But I wouldn't let that scare you away from getting your nose pierced, because I had a pretty good experience and didn't get infected or anything like that. So I had a good experience. So I think after researching the nose piercing, just making myself aware with some of the basic information about a nose piercing that I'll get into later in this video, really prepared me for my piercing. Also, I did a lot of research on the place I was getting my nose pierced itself. I looked up, I just looked piercing shop and then my city and my state, and I looked at all the results that came up. I would also read people's reviews, not just the stars. I think that's important, seeing what people's personal experiences there were. I feel like it's hard to find a place with 5 stars, especially if there aren't a lot of piercing shops near you. But I went to a place that had 4.5 stars, and the lobby looked really nice, and their website was clean, and it looked professional, and so I felt like I could trust them and I could go to that shop. And later I found out that I did make a good choice, because a lot of people at my school, at my college, like to go there. So I think it's just about having good judgment and making sure that you're aware of the shop you're going to, rather than just, doing it on a whim and deciding what shop you want to go to. I think that's something you need to choose beforehand. I think it's something that is just as important as what piercing you're gonna get. The starting price for the shop that I went to for a piercing was $40, and that's about what my nose piercing was. But I also had to pay for the nose ring itself, and this is where I made a mistake. I paid upwards of $100 for my nose piercing, because I had the $40 for the piercing itself, having that, and then for the nose ring, I paid way too much. I wish I would have just gone with the cheaper piece of jewelry. The jewelry itself was a lot of money. I don't even remember how much. I don't want to remember how much. So basically, I would say especially if it's your first piercing or your first ring, there's no need to put a bunch of money on it, because you never know. The piercing was turquoise stone, and it was actually gold, and I just spent way too much money on it. If it's your first piercing, I would suggest just going with the cheap cheaper ring, because you probably will want to change it later, especially if you're indecisive like I am. So don't put a bunch of money down on a piercing. You shouldn't have to. The place before I had done my piercing, maybe a week before, because I was nervous and like I had planned to do it. I knew at some time I was going to get a nose piercing, but I was really nervous because it was my first piercing, body piercing. And so I just picked like a random day. I finally just decided randomly, this is the day I'm going. I called, I was like, are there any openings today that I can go? And they said yes, that they weren't busy. So I went in, and it was like around the afternoon, so there was like only me, one other person there. And I just went and I picked out my piece of jewelry, and he had me hold it up to my face to see if it looked good with like my skin tone, and I liked how it looked, and I said yes, which it does look nice, but again, too expensive. So then he took me to the back to get a nose piercing, and you sit on like what kind of looks like a tattooing table. It might be a tattooing table. I sat down on that, and he marked, I told him which side I wanted on, and it's on my left side. Marked my skin with the marker to show where I wanted it, and he had me look in the mirror to say it was okay, that's where I wanted it, and I said yes. And then I laid down as he did the piercing, and he took a needle and just had me inhale, and then as I exhaled, he pushed it through my nose, and it was kind of painful. I'd say it was about a 2, but I do have a high pain tolerance, so I don't know. But the only thing that really bothered me about the piercing experience was that my eyes were watering up so much, and he like kept asking if I was okay. I was just like, yeah, it's just because it's right there, it hurts and your eyes water for some reason. I don't know, that's just a thing. He also disinfected the piercing before he put it in my nose, and while he did that, I waited in the lobby, and that was right after I picked what ring I wanted. So after that, I just stood up and I paid and I left, and they gave me Simple Care. No, it's like a nose spray. I'll link it in the description. It's vegan and like plant-based, and it's supposed to be good. It's too expensive, and I would have to go to the piercing shop to buy it, which isn't convenient for me because it was like around 10 minutes away, and it's just like which wasn't convenient for me because it was out of the way. So after I ran out of that, I just ended up using just some Walgreens brand saline solution or wound spray. I used some Walmart wound spray. It was just a Walmart brand. And I made sure to look at the reviews, but online it had decent reviews. So I used that. But what I've been using for the past few months, I've been using this wound wash sterile saline solution. And this has been doing a pretty good job. I have no problems with it. The only complaint I have is like the nozzle isn't very good, because what I do to clean it is I spray this on both sides of a Q-tip. And I take one side of the Q-tip and clean around the piercing. Well, I clean around the hole of the piercing, and then I clean the hoop itself without taking it out, or the stud. And then I take the other side of the piercing and clean the inside, cleaning the piercing itself and the actual jewelry. My piercer explained all the aftercare to me when I was there, and he also had it on a piece of paper. If they don't give you a piece of paper, make sure to write it down as soon as you leave, especially if you're forgetful like me, because I definitely didn't remember. I used that sheet quite a few times. So basically, like I said, I take the Q-tip, and I do that twice a day, once when I wake up and once right before I go to bed. And he said to do it 2 to 3 times a day. Some will suggest for you to do more, but I did 2, and that was fine. But yeah, if I say anything that contrasts with what your piercer suggests, I would definitely go with what your piercer says. Another thing that I had to do was not touching it and not like moving it around, like fiddling with it, because that's a really bad habit and that's going to irritate it. Another thing he mentioned is that I needed to keep it dry and be careful to not get any face products in it. Just make sure if they do get on the side of my nose piercing that I wash it out completely. I also couldn't swim for a month, so make sure you're not swimming in chlorine or anything like that for a month, or at the beach, wherever. And he also told me not to change it for 6 months, so I didn't end up changing my nose piercing until a few days ago. And I had this nose piercing, and it was so hard to get out. I don't know why, which is why I'm probably never going to put it back in. It was just really hard to get out. I had to get lotion and rub it around and then pull it out to loosen it up. So that's why I have this one in right now. The piercing itself hurt a few days after I did it, and there was some blood around the side of the piercing, which is normal. And it does get still inflamed still when I was changing my piercing out recently, but it still just hasn't completely healed yet. And so I feel like my piercing might end up taking around 8 months to maybe the whole full year of time, which is completely normal. I think that completes the video. If you guys have any questions, like I said, feel free to leave them down below. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and subscribe if you wish. Thank you for watching. Bye.